there's going to be a DJI Mini 3. Not exactly the most groundbreaking statement in the world. I think we all know one is coming. We've had a lot of fun recently with the DJI FPV drone and the Air 2S launches, but now it's time to talk about the Mini series again from DJI. The DJI Mini series has produced a hugely popular drone since the first model launched back in October 2019 with 2.7K capabilities and a so-so signal strength. The tiny sub 250 gram drone seemed to ignite a lot of interest in both new and existing drone users across the globe. Then of course we had the launch of what is arguably one of the most important drones DJI have ever launched. The Mini 2 came along with full 4K capabilities, zoom and a new style controller which delivered OcuSync 2.0 range in a drone which was still under 250 grams. In fact, many people found their Mini 2 to weigh less than the original version. Either way, it resulted in a drone which didn't require registering for flyers in the US, and here in the UK, thanks to the new UK drone rules, although you need an operator ID displayed, you have a drone which can be flown with no minimum separation from people and even over them. All this whilst flying as a hobbyist in congested areas for the first time. Exciting for sure. Just quickly, if you're new here and want more content focused on drones and tech, including more on the Mini 3 when we hear it, then hit the subscribe button. At Geeksvana, we've brought you accurate and early insight from reliable leaks on every drone DJI have launched during our time on air. Before we move on to talking about the Mini 3 and what kind of specs we might see, let's take a look at why it is likely, in my opinion. With the release of a second generation Mini and new Air 2 just a year after the predecessor released, we can see the Chinese drone maker changing from a historic slower release pattern to a more refreshed style, similar to what you might expect from Apple constantly releasing new versions of the iPhone. Another reason I feel the revision drone release is going to be a new standard for DJI is this tweet from DJI partner and YouTuber Billy Carl back in November 2020, just days after the Mini 2 was released. It reads, "Mini 2 owners, apparently that LED on the front was supposed to be a single obstacle avoidance sensor, but that didn't make it to the final version. So they added the LED to fill the space. But I assume there will be some form of obstacle avoidance next year in the Mini 3. Now this statement from a large YouTuber who is often sent DJI products many months before release is certainly interesting, and it shows to me the mentality of switching from new drone models being launched to building releases of refined models. So we should probably expect to see an FPV2 at some point in 2022 as well. The last minute change in production to add the LED light also explains why some people were finding the Mini 2 actually weighed less than the original Mavic Mini. So based on this and the release schedule we have seen so far for the Mini and Air 2 range, we should certainly expect to see a new Mini 3 coming later this year. Now whether the Air 2S has started a new trend and we'll see the new drone called the Mini 2S or Mini 3 is anyone's guess right now, but DJI do tend to strategize their product names very carefully, so the S insignia might well be here to stay for the launch of some of the updated drones. So that explains the if and potentially when we will see a Mini 3 updated drone from DJI, but what about the specs? What would we need to see in this drone to make us part from our hard-earned money to upgrade? Looking at the Mini to Mini 2 and Air 2 to Air 2S jumps, it seems DJI are very clever at giving us just enough refinements and upgrades to shift the units. This is a question for existing Mini 2 owners. What would it take for you to upgrade? The Mini 2 is still the king of the UK skies, and I would very much be interested to hear what the existing users might want to see next. For me, I think obstacle avoidance is something we're going to see. Clearly with tweets like Billy Carl's we discussed earlier, it seems like DJI have the same idea. The upcoming Hubsan Xeno Mini Pro boasts a lot of specs, including obstacle avoidance, and although many of us are still waiting to see if this little drone proves itself, it does show that manufacturers seem keen to move avoidance tech into the sub 250 gram marketplace. For me, obstacle avoidance is something which is handy, but I honestly cannot remember the last time I used it. So would it really make a huge difference? Let me know in the comments below. Probably the last drone which screamed at me about obstacles was the FPV drone, getting worried about a tree or two. The 1-inch sensor on the Air 2 was an interesting inclusion. Many commentators in the drone niche wondered if DJI would actually put one on the Air 2S, as it could actually marginalise the market for the Mavic 2 Pro prior to any Mavic 3 or replacement prosumer drone launching. It seemed that DJI were not concerned, and we do now have the Air 2S with a 1-inch sensor, of course. It has created a lot of interesting debate out there, with some actually selling their now aging Mavic 2 Pros to focus their photography and videography on the Air 2S. It has blurred the lines a little between the consumer and prosumer level of drones. The Air 2S isn't perfect, of course, lacking aperture capabilities and a few tricks. What has this all got to do with the Mini 3 and the potential specs, you might ask? Well, it is more to warn that anything is possible. Could we see a Mini 3 with a 1-inch sensor? Seems a little unlikely, as it would compete with the Air 2S. But I would personally argue that the Mini 2 and Air 2S are purchased by different types of flyer, so an overlap could be possible. I will be interested to read in the comments what your thoughts are on a 1-inch sensor in a Mini 3 size drone. There are obvious issues in terms of weight, and if we start piling obstacle sensors and 1-inch sensors on there, then the drone is in danger of becoming a little bloated. Looking at the marketplace and the varied type of drone flyer who purchases drones like the Mini 2, there is somewhat of a more light-hearted and hobbyist approach to it. One other type of product type within that sector is the 360 camera. Could this be a direction we see the Mini 3 go in? Existing 360 products show how light and small you can get the tech, and it could even be some kind of add-on to the drone, allowing DJI the opportunity to sell the 360 camera as a standalone product too. Could we be foreshadowing the upcoming DJI Action 2 here? Let me know in the comments, would 360 camera capabilities on a sub 250 gram drone be of any interest? Or is the 360 camera market too niche and a potential 3D TV here today, gone tomorrow type of fad? Whatever the Mini 3 specifications end up being, one thing is for certain, DJI usually get it spot on. When the Mini 2 and Air 2S launched, I was fairly confident they wouldn't sway me into purchasing them, but that soon changed. Of course, here in the UK we have other factors with larger drones in terms of the C label systems, but that's a totally different conversation, and you can get my latest thoughts on this in a recent video which is linked in the description below. Coming up on Geeksvana, I have some more content focused on the existing drone, the DJI Mini 2, coming very soon, including increasing daytime visibility with the summer and brighter skies approaching, and I'm about to fly my Mini 2 at a Formula Nuclear Weapons RAF base, so keep tuned. If you're one of the awesome people still watching this video now, hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it.